Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Graveyard. And tonight I'm joined by my co host, Travis.
Hello, everybody.
And today, tonight, or whatever time it may be when you're listening to, we're about to talk about some ballet, crooks, and a fucking vampire.
Yeah, I feel like that's a great way to, very great, good, very simple way to explain this movie.
That is very fair. But for those who don't know, tonight's topic is Abigail, released back earlier this year on April 19th of 2024. Me and Travis here, we went to see this opening weekend, I believe, right?
It was either opening weekend or the weekend after. It was something like that. It was very close to when it opened.
Yeah. This is the sixth feature-length film brought to us by Radio Silence, the two collaborative directors who also brought us Ready or Not, which I believe is one of the first feature-length films they did. I think they only had one before that, and Southbound. They also direct Southbound. That's right, and they also directed the 2022 Scream, which is the fifth movie. Don't know why they didn't name it Scream 5.
I am sorry, I was wrong. Southbound was not their first one. Their first one was Devil's Due, 2014. Devil's Due,
okay. Because they directed that film right after they did their short on VHS.
Yes.
Which I think is where they got a lot of their funding from, and where they got their popularity from was from their short in that. But they directed the remake or requel, Scream 5 in 2022, and they also directed the sixth movie in the Scream series, which came out early 2023.
Yes, and now allegedly we have Scream 7 coming out.
But not by them. That's going to be
But still, yeah. I feel like we have to bring that up because we love Scream.
We do.
This movie, in a very brief synopsis, after a group of criminals kidnap a ballerina daughter of a powerful underworld figure, they retreat to an isolated mansion, unaware that they are locked inside with no normal little girl. Which is like a very brief explanation to it, and honestly, if they were to do that in the trailer for this movie, I would have really been intrigued by it. I was really intrigued anyways, and I was really excited to see this movie. But they took the way that they promoted this movie, they took all of the surprise twist, whatever you want to directly out of the movie.
That is definitely one of the first issues that I had with this movie, because when we went to see it, I already knew the twist. Most of the people who went to the theaters already knew the twist that, one, the movie's titled Abigail. Her face is plastered all...
Abigail?
Yeah. I've only taken a few sips of whiskey, I swear.
Oh my god.
But Abigail, being plastered all over the marketing for this movie, she was the face of the posters with her in the ballet dress that kind of got long. It was white but kind of blended out into a red blood color.
Yep, on the bottom.
Which is, for modern movie posters, I think it's one of the better ones. I have a whole issue with a bunch of other ones out there because they just don't.
You do.
They don't give me enough of the story if I feel like I'm going into it, and they feel too generic. But for what Abigail does, I thought it was quite nice. But it just felt like, going into the movie, I wish there was more of a surprise, kind of like a little bit of a spectacle to it.
Yeah. I mean, even though the trailer of this movie definitely showed us the big twist of this movie. Overall, I feel like it was marketed very well.
Oh yeah.
Like even though they showed us what was going to happen, the twist, the big reveal, it was still very well marketed, and it still intrigued a lot of people to go see this movie.
Yes. But I think it was kind of also a double-edged sword because I can't think of any other way to market it this film, especially if it was going with the title of being Abigail.
Yeah.
Because this was originally supposed to be an adaptation of, or a remake and adaptation of Dracula's Daughter. And the movie was announced, I believe, back in a year before, April of 2023, from the Radio Silence director duo. But it was also announced that the film would be co-produced from, trying to think of the name, Project X Entertainment.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
it.
But I mean, this movie did do really well. When it opened in theaters, in opening weekend, it made $4 million, which I think that you and I can both say that we added a total of like $40 to go see this movie.
Somewhere around that. Actually, no, I think this was one of the first films after I got my Regal subscription that I went to. So I
think it was.
I didn't pay shit.
I did. And then overall, it surpassed the Universal past vampire movies with a total of 28.5 million worldwide.
Yeah.
At the end of its time in theaters.
Yeah, the only problem with that is I believe the budget for this film was 28 million.
I don't know what the budget was.
I do believe it was 28 million. So it was seen as a box office failure, but not by much.
No. So I feel like we should jump into the cast of this movie. The cast of this movie is extremely small. It was a very small knit cast in this movie. And obviously, I feel like the first one that we have to start with is Abigail herself. I'm so sorry if I butcher her name. Alicia Weirs?
Weir. I think it's Alicia Weir.
Maybe. So Alicia Weir is a young child actor. That, you know, her biggest known movies is Abigail, Matilda the Musical, Wicked Little Letter, and Don't Leave Home.
Yeah. And she's quite a young actress too, but she's definitely against the typical child actor, which I think nowadays, especially after movies like It Chapter 1, we're seeing a lot of better child actors in the field.
Yes, I completely agree. She is fairly young. I can't say very young, even though I really want to, because I just looked up how old she was because I wasn't sure. I want, Robert, you'll understand this. I so badly want to be like, oh my gosh, she's a child. She's not. She was born in 2009. She's 15 years old. 2009, that is a child.
That's a child.
But she's not. She's a teenager. But she's a child to us.
She is a child.
We're old.
And I prefer to... We're not that old. But she is young. If she turned 15 this year, I'm guessing.
Yes.
She was doing this movie... Because this movie was being filmed right before the SAG strikes, or however you pronounce the union there for actors, they definitely had to take a break, I believe. So I think she had to have been 14 when they returned, but possibly 13 when they started filming.
Yeah,
when they started filming this, and that just more of a testament to her ability as a child and an actor.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, she was a very incredible actor for being a child. She's very she's very good, and you know, she played a little psycho vampire in a very well way of doing it. It was very cool. Although I will say the idea that this girl, when she got the role of Abigail in this movie, she didn't know anything about vampires except for what she saw in the TV show Vampire Diaries,
Yeah,
which
I saw
is
the interview.
kind of disturbing.
I think I saw the interview where she was with Melissa Barrera, and Barrera was going off and saying how how the girl's never seen Twilight, which thank God for her soul that she hasn't watched that.
Yeah, but she might have seen it by now.
Well,
Let's hope she hasn't.
I feel like we're being too unkind to that movie. It has some good qualities about it.
Vampires don't sparkle in the sunlight. They burst into flames. Anyways, I feel like that was a good segue into our next character, Melissa Barrera and her character Joey.
And this isn't her first time working in a movie with radio silence either. I think she'd be the most tenured an actor that has worked with this crew at this point, because she played the main character Sam Carpenter in the Scream 5 and Scream 6.
Yep. And she's also really well known for the movie In the Heights, which was the movie adaptation of Lin-Manuel Miranda's his musical that he wrote, that they made a movie for in 2021.
Okay.
Which, Robert, you know, I'm a huge theater guy. I love musicals, and I really liked In the Heights. It was a very good movie. Highly recommend watching it, but we're not here to talk about musicals. We're here to talk about horror.
I didn't even know there was a play or musical called In the Heights.
Well, now you do, and go watch it.
Oh. Maybe. But Melissa Barrera plays Joey in this movie, and all these are code names too for these characters. We don't get the actual names for these characters.
Yes,
Joey, except for Abigail. Well, technically,
that is true. So speaking of the code names, all of the code names that are given to these people that are in this thing, they are all based on the Rat Pack, which was a informal group of singers in the late 40s, early 50s that consisted of Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, Sammy Davis Jr., Peter Lawford, Joey Bishop, and of course Don Rickles.
Yeah. Wasn't Frank Sinatra the late attachment to that group too?
No. So the attachment initially was just Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, Sammy Davis Jr., Peter Lawford, and Joey Bishop. Don Rickles is actually a honorary member of the Rat Pack, but not an actual member from what I have seen. Like, he was honorated in it, but it was a very small thing. It was just a big group of musicians and comedians that made different kinds of movies in the late 40s, early 50s.
Yes. And the characters are also, these are crook characters, also inspired by the fact that the Rat Pack were the original actors in the original Ocean's 11 movie.
Yes. Which is very good, and I very much appreciate that. It's a very beautiful call to a very old and very good movie, in my personal opinion.
I haven't watched it fully yet. I just know that was the original cast and crew.
Yep. So Joey is a nurse, essentially, from what we can tell. But she is also labeled as a junkie. And there's a couple different things that point towards her having previously partaken in illegal substances, such as her fixation with eating candy. So she always has like a dum-dum in her mouth, or she's chewing on some kind of candy or gum or something like that. Overall, though, she's a great character. I really enjoyed Joey's character. She really cares. She felt bad about kidnapping Abigail, um, and when at the very beginning of the movie when they're going through the kidnapping scene, um, she didn't know that they were kidnapping a kid, and
Yeah, no.
like that was a huge thing for her. Like when they found out that they were kidnapping a kid, she was like, I didn't realize it was a fucking kid. Like that was literally the words out of her mouth, I believe.
Yeah. And I love Frank's response to that too, where he's just like, "Well, it's a kid. Are you gonna leave?" Or
Well,
it was something along the.
yeah, it was like, it's a kid. Are you gonna leave? No, shut the fuck up then. Like it was like something like that.
Yeah. Frank, probably my second favorite character, but we'll get to him in a moment.
I feel like Frank's definitely who we need to talk about next because I have some things that I want to talk about for Frank. But Robert, do you have anything else that you want to add on to Joey's character?
My specific thing with Joey's character is obviously being the main character in this film. She was very good at the subtle notions in this movie. Like, there's a scene with her character Joey, and then Rickles, the other character,
Don
one of the
fucking
other
Rickles.
Yeah, his character. There's like a subtle like look because they have a connection with each other because they were both military veterans, with him being a sniper of some sorts
And her being
within the branch. Yeah, her being an army medic, which is relation and how relates to how she became a junkie, kind of got injured on the battlefront and got addicted to the
painkillers.
only painkillers only illegal when you don't get them from the government.
Oh my gosh, Robert, don't go down that road right now. I really
I'm just saying.
I agree. I really liked the subtle notions that Melissa Barrera gave off as Joey. I also really enjoyed the fact that the cast for this movie, they were given a lot of freedom. They were given like how they want their character to look and like their backstory and a few other things. Like they got to improvise lines and a couple other things like that. And I really enjoyed that. I feel like the chemistry of this group, even though they were small, so it was easy to like get to know everybody in this in the group for this movie. I felt like the chemistry was just really on point for it.
Oh, most definitely. Like, especially with characters, I feel like we could put off Frank just for a little bit, but going on that chemistry of characters, Catherine Newton playing Sammy.
Oh my god, I love Catherine Newton.
And Kevin Durand
playing
Peter. Kevin Durand as Peter. Favorite character of this entire movie.
Oh,
dumb meat man plays
one of my favorites.
Man plays the dumb meathead muscle to the fucking T.
Oh, absolutely. He does. And
Also,
he does it so well. Like his one the one interaction between Sammy and Peter when they were doing the drinking game, and she said to him like, "You're just missing on purpose, so you have to drink the whole bottle." And he's like, "I don't know what you're talking about," and then throws the quarter behind him, purposely missing so he can take the shot. It's so well, like their chemistry alone was amazing.
Yeah. And her response to that too being, "You're so funny and scary."
Yeah, you're so funny. I like you, but you're scary. Yeah, it's an amazing line. It's so good. It's so like straightforward and beautiful. And like honestly, Catherine Newton played like, obviously you and I both know this. She's played in a lot of other things. She was in Ant-Man and the Wasp. She was in Detective Pikachu. She was in the movie Freaky. She was in Supernatural. She plays Claire Novak. Her playing the runaway, the hacker, like that kind of stuff. It works for her so well. and I
I
really love
I
it.
my first experience with watching her inside of a horror movie was in Freaky, where she started alongside
Oh,
Vince Vaughn.
yes, yes. She started along with Vince Vaughn because they like switch places, don't they?
Yeah, it's a Freaky Friday situation, which we'll get to that movie at some other point. I highly suggest for those who out there, please watch that movie.
It's
It
a
is my
great one.
favorite interpretation of the Freaky Friday scenario. But getting back to her character in the movie, Sammy being the hacker, one of the best I think versions that we get to kind of see of a hacker in a horror movie, because we don't get to see her. She doesn't play it like the typical nerdy character doing the hacker. She's kind of the punk of the group.
Yeah, she's like the runaway, and like they literally in an interview with Catherine Newton, she stated that like she wanted to come off as like a punk hacker type person that like didn't like sit well with her parents. I think that's how she
Yeah,
put
one of
it.
her.
Like one
Yeah,
of
because one of the tattoos on her hand was "fuck mom."
Yeah, and like she was just covered in these fake tattoos, and I was gonna talk about the fuck mom tattoo, which is so funny, and I loved it. It was such a great little touch for her character. It was so subtle because like if you didn't like, there's only one scene that you can really see what the hand tattoo says,
Yeah,
and it's like
yeah,
right at the beginning of the movie.
yep. When she's doing the tracking on the car taking Abigail back to her house,
Yeah. Um,
but
but then
and
jumping
carrying
back.
yeah
What's up?
carrying over from I was gonna say carrying over from Catherine Newton in back on Kevin Durand, just because I feel like we have to talk about him a bit more,
Oh,
and
absolutely. Um,
I can get more of my little GDs about this man. He played in Lost, which I think was like one of the big things people remember him from.
Honestly, I know you're gonna give me a lot of shit for this. One of the biggest things that I remember him from is from X-Men Origins Wolverine.
He
Purely
played
because he played what was his character's name? Um he played Fred
it was
Dukes. The
he's
dude
the
that got
Blob, isn't he?
yeah, the dude that got really, really fat. And like I remember him from that movie more than anything else, and I kinda hate it.
I remember him from Lost, but I do remember him specifically playing Little John from the 2010 Robin Hood movie.
Yes, I do remember him from that as well.
So another character he kind of gets to play the big muscle in. But this man does the muscle to the best. He drinks to forget. Not sure what he fully forgets, but he drinks to forget.
Like he
The
drinks
man
away his guilt. I'm pretty sure that's how he put it.
guilt. Yeah, drinks away the guilt because he was one of the first people to suggest after Abigail sees Frank's face that he was like, I guess we gotta kill her now.
Yeah, which
And it's just like
which is super dark.
it's like take a few steps back.
Yeah, the fact that he just jumped to that immediately is insane. It was crazy to me that he jumped to that before anything else.
That and he got to speak in his like natural accent too, because he's from Quebec. And it took me a while. I'm not from Canada. I've never been to Canada. I've never been to Quebec, so I don't know how the people speak. But apparently, he was speaking with a Quebec accent in that film.
Yeah,
And for the longest time, I just didn't know what it was.
yeah.
When I watched it,
Originally, when they pitched the character to him, they wanted the character to be from like Louisiana and like all this other and like this other stuff like down Bayou type area and shit. But then they said that they could have like some creative liberties with their characters, and he was like, "Oh well, I want to make him from northern Quebec so that he could just talk normally instead of having to use an accent the whole time."
that that's fair, and I feel like that's another way the chemistry gets to come off too because of him, because he's not having to like kind of focus on that accent, not having to like not talk any other specific way other than how he would normally, and they just has to add the character into the way he speaks.
Absolutely. So then jumping to the next character, I feel like we should talk about Rickles next.
Rickles, yeah,
Like he was.
Rickles.
Sadly, we didn't get to see enough of Rickles, and that's one thing that I'm upset about.
Yeah.
You know, his character was like the mysterious kind of guy, like, you know, obviously used to be army, and you know, we never really got to explore his character more than that.
Yeah, because unfortunately, I do feel like his character. It's unfortunate because I liked the idea that they're going for with him and Joey being the two military veterans. But we don't get to see him much in the opening because he's off the distance, separated from the rest of the group,
Yeah,
being the sniper.
yeah, at the very beginning, you know, he was up on a roof. He's, you know, he's watching the door, and then once they get to the mansion that they were holding Abigail at, that was called
He
the
stations
Wilhelm
him.
Manor. He's stationed up in like a crow's nest type area to like keep an
Yeah,
eye out.
yeah, and it's just unfortunate that we didn't get to see too much from his character because he's not even the first one to die.
Nah, he's not. Before we jump into the first one that dies, I do want to mention. So the manor that they kept her in the movie, it was called the Wilhelm Manor. In like real life, in the real world, it's called the Guinness Manor or Glen Maroon. It's in Dublin, Ireland, and the guy that built it, he built it in 1904, by Arthur Ernest Guinness, one of the like people that founded the Guinness Beer Company.
Yeah, he's one of the dynasty like family members.
Yeah, which is awesome. That's like insane to me that they filmed this there. And every single scene in the movie, except for the scenes in the library and the kitchen cellar, were filmed in this manor.
Yes, yep. They everything except for those two scenes, which were built on very, very fascinating sets.
Oh, absolutely. The sets are amazing.
Because
And the manor, when they found it and were like, oh, we want to like film stuff in here, it was completely barren. Like it was, like nobody was there, and the like producers, the directors, you know, they put everything into this manor to like build this like into an actual house that is,
and this
like,
isn't their
still
first.
livable.
This also wasn't their like first time taking some place that was abandoned because they did the same thing for their VHS short.
Yeah, which is awesome.
They got more balls than me to go say like, hey, that house right there looks creepy enough. No one's lived in it for years.
Yeah, let's go take over that house and film a movie in there. It's awesome, and I really like that they did that. I feel like it's a fun little fact of this movie.
It is because the manor itself kind of is kind of a character, not like how not like how a couple of weeks ago when we talked with like the manor and house from 13 Ghosts, but there's definitely like some sort, especially in the library specifically, because that's where a lot of like the focus and set pieces are.
Yeah,
with the statue,
which is awesome, and like the house is pretty much its own character in this movie. Like you said, it's obviously not to the level of the glass mansion in 13 Ghosts, but it does have its own vibe, its own, you know, purpose, I guess. And I feel like it's done really, really well. So then jumping to our second to last, or technically third to last, character in this cast, we have Dean,
played by the late Angus Cloud.
Yes.
Which this movie.
Oh no! Hold on. Before we jump into this, Robert, I feel like there's something that you and I need to mention. That you said to me after we left the theater when we went to see Abigail.
Is the fact that I was looking at this movie and I said, I looked on the screen, is like, why does that man look like Mac Miller?
Yep. Robert immediately, as we walk out of the theater, he's like, dude, the one guy, he looked like Mac Miller. He looked exactly like Mac Miller.
I did have to double check myself because I couldn't remember exactly what Mac Miller looks like, but this man gave off the same kind of look and vibes off of him.
I mean, he
that
kind of does.
Yeah.
But so Dean, played by the late Angus Cloud, he is best known for Dean and Abigail, Fresco in the TV show Euphoria, Sterling
Yeah.
in Your Lucky Day, and Travis in Freaky Tales. I had to name all of them since
You
my
just
name
wanted to
is
say your name.
Yeah.
You just wanted to say
know
that with
me.
your name.
You know me. I find it funny, but yeah. So I mean, he's been in a ton of different stuff, and sadly he passed too soon. Do you remember what he passed away from?
I don't exactly know. I don't think it relatively matters when it comes to this because he's another character, an actor who kind of brought a piece of himself into the role he was playing.
Oh, absolutely. And one of the things that I found out while researching this movie, so he actually died when they had to take a break
Yes,
from filming.
due to the strike that happened.
Yes, but luckily all of his scenes were already filmed for the movie. So they didn't have to CGI him into scenes. They didn't have to do, AI voiceovers or whatever they want to call it, to like keep his character in the movie.
Yeah, this is surprisingly this isn't his last performance. It's his last performance where he is in it for a considerable amount of time. That actually goes to him voicing a small role in the Garfield movie that came out here in 2024, where he voiced a character called Snickers.
Yes. And Freaky Tales, the one that I brought up that he plays me, that also came out in 2024.
Yeah. So he definitely had quite a not a big one, but he had a good amount of stuff coming his way. It feels when we're talking in terms of roles, because it looks like Euphoria is what really kicked it off and started his career. And it's a shame that we kind of we won't get to see what else he gets to do, or what else he could have done in the industry. But his the parts of him that he brings into his character, like the quirk, he's the quirky guy. He's an outstanding from the rest, because Joey puts it the best. He's not a professional.
Yeah, he's got a couple screws loose, possibly a psychopath, which is a quote from the movie.
Yeah, and he had some of the better one-liners in the first act of this movie. He had the best one-liners in the first act of this movie. Him riding around on the small bike when they're at the bar, and he's riding around the pool table. He sees Joey have like candy before she goes into reading, or is it before or after she goes into reading people? Before him just walking up and like, hey, can I get some candy? Or let me have a piece of that candy.
And she's just no, get your own.
Is him riding off on a small bike going, well, fuck you too.
Which is just, it's a beautiful fucking line. It was delivered so perfectly. Not my favorite line in the movie, though.
Definitely not my favorite, but it's up there.
Absolutely, I completely agree.
It's so relatable. I can't tell you the amount of times I've seen someone else eating candy and they wouldn't give me any.
Yeah, I can't tell you the amount of times that like Robert and I have been hanging out, and he's got like chips or he has some candy, and I'm like, hey, can I have a piece? And he's like, get your own, bitch. Well, fuck you too, buddy.
Hey, we'll get your own.
Fuck you. You're supposed to share. Anyways, so next onto our of our main cast, we have my favorite character in the movie, Frank, played by Dan Stevens. He is basically he's ex-cop, detective to be specific. He is like everybody in this group. They have like their own roles. So like Joey is the nurse, and Sammy is the hacker. Dean was the getaway driver. He's the wheelman. Peter is the muscle. Rickles is the sniper, and Dean is the dick. Like he is the person that is just there to be an asshole.
I feel like he's supposed to be the one keeping people in line.
Oh, absolutely. He's supposed to be like the leader, but he's just a dick.
Yeah, he's the shot caller. He's the one that's supposed to. He was like the first one asked to like do this mission, obviously by Lambert, I believe, because him and Lambert, another character that we can kind of get into a little bit.
Yeah, we definitely will. But these are the main seven characters that we're talking about right now. But Dean actually delivers my all-time favorite line in this entire movie. Or Frank does, not Dean.
Yeah.
So Frank, after they find out that Abigail is a vampire, they all collectively like come together and they're like, okay, we gotta like get this. So they bring together all their vampire knowledge. So like Frank sends Peter to go make wooden stakes out of the pool cue, and he sends Sammy to go get garlic from the kitchen, and she comes back and she goes, I got it, and she's holding this big ass bag with onions in it. And Frank just turns and looks at her and goes, Sammy, those are fucking onions. And it's just a beautiful line. I love it. It made me laugh so hard. It's just an amazing line in this movie. That is probably my favorite line.
Yeah, that is pretty good. I mean, on top of that, but at the end of the movie, when he's looking at Abigail and they're having the fight, his line of just saying, I fucking hate Belle. Was it in the end, or was that right there when she was dancing with the corpse?
No, that was at the end of the movie, I believe. I can't remember. Yeah, but I'm pretty sure that was at the end of the movie.
Either way, it's just another simple line he has, and in response to the situation, he's faced with something that is already broke his beliefs and reality of the world. And his one of his first lines of seeing is, "I fucking hate ballet."
Yeah, and it's just an amazing. And like overall, I really liked his character, and yeah, I really enjoyed it. But then we have Lambert. I feel like Frank is a very, like, there's so much that we could talk about, but, like, we can pretty much sum it up as he's the dick of the group.
Yeah, that he did the role very well.
Absolutely. Dan Stevens did an amazing job.
Yeah. The only other thing I think I know him from is he played in the live-action Beauty and the Beast, correct?
Yes, he did. He plays, actually, I'm pretty sure he plays the Beast. Like, he is the Beast in the live-action Beauty and the Beast. He was also in Cuckoo.
I've been meaning to watch that, yeah.
Yeah, he was in that. He was in Godzilla x Kong, The New Empire. He was in Downton Abbey for 25 episodes. That's freaking crazy. But he's been in a bunch of different stuff, but I really liked him in this role. I feel like it fit him very well. He could play the character very well. But then we have Lambert. Lambert was Robert. I feel like you can explain this better than I can.
He was the I want to say he was kind of the butler in the situation.
The butler, bitch.
I'm just saying.
I wouldn't say butler.
He was the middleman. He was the one that helped get the Crooks and the team together. He was the one that did all the outsourcing for whoever was trying to pay these individuals for this job. Or that's what he was appearing to be.
Yeah.
But in the end, he kind of turns out to be
Another vampire.
another vampire, but he works like right underneath the big bad, the father to Abigail. I forget the guy's name. Lazarus.
So they threw around so many different names for him. Christoph, Lazarus. I think it was Lazarus. And then they also called him something else.
Well, I think Christoph. I think was like supposed to be the first name, but Lazarus, and then the other name that we hear, which is another con I have about this movie. Right before we get hit the second act, they kind of throw around like off-screen character names, kind of willy-nilly, and you kind of get lost. Yeah, but they throw it out so much that you can get lost pretty easily on who they're talking about.
That is true, and I do agree with that. They do only throw out two, and then after after a little bit of explaining, I guess, they actually like come out and they're like, yeah, so Christoph, that's the dad, and then the other unnamed person that they put out is actually Abigail.
Yes, which was the name.
I don't remember it off the top.
Velasquez. Velasquez was supposed.
Yes.
It's supposed to be the hitman that works directly for Lazarus.
Yes.
But in the end, we do find out that Abigail is Velasquez, and she is a vampire. She has lived for centuries. Per the one quote that we hear her say to Peter when he tells her to stop acting like a little girl.
Mm-hmm.
And it turns out that her motivations for bringing everybody here to the manor is that they all in some way have done a wrong to her father. And so she's trying to get her father's attention by taking out the ones who have wronged him.
Yep, which is kind of, if I may, Jigsaw-esque.
I would say it's less Jigsaw, but just crazy-ass daddy issues.
Well, yeah, but I say Jigsaw-esque because of the whole, like the thing with Jigsaw is that he, takes people that have done wrong, that have done bad shit, and then locks them, and they're like, hey, you have a chance to get out, but, like, not really.
Yeah. But with Abigail and her doing all this, because I feel like now's a good time to kind of go down to the body count that we get in this movie.
Oh, the body count. Because
we first get to see the first death, which is not Ricky or whatever. Rickles. Rickles. I'm not into the same music like that, okay? I'm not going to say the name right. But Dean, played by Angus, is the first to go. We don't get to see the actual death happening. We get to see the aftermath in this situation after he scares Sammy with the mask in the room. She tells him she kicks him out of the room. He goes down to the kitchen, the cellar.
Yep.
And he gets attacked off screen after getting jump scared by a rat, which I was kind of hoping he'd just punch the rat because he aimed it up at that scene.
Oh yeah, he like lifted up his fist like he was ready to throw down with this rat, which is honestly really freaking funny to me. Yeah. But then we get to see his decapitated head.
Yeah, we do get to see him get dragged off after having his legs pulled out from underneath him, as he's trying to leave the room where he was getting into confrontations with the rat.
Yep.
But he gets his feet pulled out from underneath him and dragged away. We hear his screams, but cut back to Sammy, who investigates the noise. A really dumb decision. Somebody is out there. There's a possibility someone wanted to kill you. I don't think going towards the noise is your best option.
Well, it's never the best option, but people are dumb.
And got to keep the movie moving forward.
Yeah.
But she goes back. She goes down and follows the screams after they've been gone to the kitchen, where she stumbles upon Dean sitting in a chair, and his head rolls off.
which, not gonna lie, is like the fact that they were able to rest the decapitated head where they did and how it was decapitated is honestly really impressive.
Yeah, especially with it being literally ripped off, as Frank described it, it looked like his head was torn off by a wild animal.
Yep. Which
Like
was
there ain't no even surface to rest the head on at that point.
nope. But it was so good. It looked amazing. I
It
really
did look
enjoyed
very
it.
well. But we get a little time. The group's panicking after that point. We fast forward a bit, and the next death, which I feel like is kind of disappointing because it doesn't even happen. It doesn't happen fully off screen. It happens just slightly out of frame. Rickles gets mauled,
Essentially, his face and neck get chewed off.
chewed off. We don't even hear a struggle, really.
No.
I don't believe. We don't. It's like so quick that it. I think it's just Joey questioning why she doesn't hear any footsteps behind her anymore. Is the big thing, and it just feels so. It's the weakest kill in the movie for the sole purpose that it felt like they could have done more. I get that they're trying to like build up that ladder to the really gory things. But I feel like you could have done like if you're not going to give Rickles enough time, you could have let him gone out with a bang.
Yeah. No, I do completely agree with that. I feel like they kind of shorted us for what we could have seen for him dying. But then after Rickles' death, we have not another kill, but we get bodies. Because then we have Sammy, played by Catherine Newton, falling into a pool filled with dead bodies. Which, after counting them and looking up some things,
I paused the frame. I counted like 30, 36, 38. I counted again. Thought there might have been 40. I had to double check with the Dead Meats channel and the kill count because I knew they did a video on it, and they definitely had a body count in there somewhere. The poor soul who probably went through that hours on hours just double checking himself. The total, actually, before we get the actual total, what was your count?
My first initial count when I counted it, I counted 38. So
All
I mean,
right.
it was pretty close because the actual number was 41 bodies.
Yeah. So we weren't that far off, but I don't think I've ever seen 40 people in a pool, so I'm just surprised.
I probably have.
Yeah, that's fair. I just don't think I have.
That's fair.
But that scene is a good thing to introduce another thing with radio silence and how much they love practical effects. Those were, I don't think they were actors that were in that pool.
No,
but
they were mannequin like dummies type
dummies. Things. They built in that pool, but there was no special effects in the sense of like generated images, nothing that was used like in a blender and like created on a computer. They did a practical effect. They did a practical effect where they basically had a tank within a pool for Catherine Newton to fall into.
Yeah, which was incredible.
Yes. And the amount of blood fake blood this movie used, was, let me find it, I wrote down the number. They used 30,000 liters of blood in this movie. Jeez. Of fake blood.
That is
the pool scene
so much. I honestly can't think of how much 30,000 liters actually is.
The pool scene itself was 18,000 liters.
God. And like I also know that like when they were doing like the test, because they did like a test pool, like a smaller one for Catherine Newton to like wade in, I guess.
Yes.
And she like really didn't mind it, but then by the end of filming, she hated the pool Like, she despised it. She wanted nothing to do with it. She thought that it was, like, the most nightmare-esque place on the entire set.
I mean, to be fair, could you just imagine the amount of takes they probably had to do for that?
Yeah. So many.
I would get tired, too, of being drenched in a pool. Like, being sprayed with fake blood is one thing.
She was
Being
in a
submersed.
pool of fake blood.
Yeah, being submersed in it is another.
Oh, absolutely. And honestly, it sounds like you and I have we've shot short, horror movies and stuff before, and I've been absolutely drenched in fake blood before. And even that, I hated it.
Yeah.
Like,
well, to be fair though,
so it was. Well, I think it was also the fact of the fake blood that we used. It was like super sticky.
yeah, because the recipe I used for that fake blood was white clear corn syrup was the base of it, and then I threw in like red food coloring. I think it was edible too, and
Yeah,
I think
you
to help
put
the
in,
flavor of it,
like Nesquik or something.
cocoa,
Right?
not Nesquik. I just put cocoa powder into it to help darken it just a little bit, so it looks a bit more like blood, and not like
Fake
not
blood.
not the Hammer House style bright red.
Yeah.
Which I think I should have done anyways because we filmed at night like idiots with one light.
That's so true. Honestly, like, that was still, like, of all of the different, like, shorts and stuff that you and I have filmed together over the years, that is probably the most fun that I've had filming one, or probably the second most fun that I've had filming a short with you.
Was the other one where I let you get to beat up Logan?
No, the other one was it was fun when I got to beat up Logan for a short. But no, the other one that I had a lot of fun with was when we did the silent film.
That's right.
I
forgot about
that
that
was a
one.
lot of fun. We should like find those and like post them on YouTube.
I would rather we did.
I think we should. I think we should post those, and then we should do recreations of them.
I don't know how we're going to recreate the silent film. We don't have access to a building big enough.
We can make it work. We'll figure it out. We know people. We could easily do that.
But getting back to this film after that tangent, this movie, it was filmed in Ireland because of the manor being there. The amount of blood they used, they actually used like all like the fake blood that was available in Ireland,
which is insanity.
They had to imagine being the person that receiving that order to import fake blood.
Honestly, if I was working in like film type stuff and I got a order to import fake blood, I'm hand delivering that shit.
And that's another thing.
I want to know what it's for.
And in the case of the movie's use of blood and gore, once the second act starts, the ramp up in all the blood and gore is so intense.
Oh, absolutely. Because, like, the first act, there's, like, no, like, really bloody, really gory type stuff. Like, and then you get Act 2, and it's just blood, gore, death, and it's, like, it's so much, and it's so good.
We get decapitations. The effects for being mauled are very detailed and look very good for Rickles. And then we get to the ballet scene where Abigail is using Dean's headless corpse to dance with when Sammy, Peter, and Frank go to find her and hunt her down. And it just doesn't turn out well for him. And
no, it doesn't turn well. She friggin' beats the shit out of Sammy. She stabs Peter with a cross like 30 times in the chest. And she friggin' takes the pool cue and shoves it through Frank's leg.
Yeah.
You saying that it doesn't go well is an understatement.
The first plan usually tends not to succeed. it didn't in this case. It's just varying levels of how poorly it happens. They obviously rolled a nat 1.
Dude, the bitch, they rolled a nat 1 with a fucking -4 modifier.
They rolled a nat 1 with disadvantage, okay?
Literally. So then after Rickles' death and the pool, is it Peter or Sammy that's next?
Sammy, well, first things first is, before they get to the next death, they kind of like get Abigail pinned and trapped. And the way they do it is fucking hilarious, because I didn't expect it. Peter, out of fucking nowhere, dive and tackles Abigail.
Just body slams her.
After she attacked Sammy and started biting her. So Sammy gets bit by Abigail. And that causes her to freak out, because she's like, because she doesn't know what's going to happen to her, because she thinks, I'm bit, I'm going to get turned.
That's not how vampires work. That's zombies, Sammy. Come on.
Oh, yeah, but like, you don't know the rules. They're not always traditional.
That is fair.
But she gets bit. She's very confused. She's worrying. Peter comes out of fucking nowhere, dive tackling Abigail, and then we get Joey injecting her with the serum that made her fall asleep. Which, damn, to be a vampire, immortal, but yes, still gets put to sleep after getting injected.
Yep.
What a flaw.
That's like big F in the chat for Abigail. Like falling asleep again. Like, Jesus, what are you, a child?
I mean, technically.
Technically, yes. I know, it was a joke, damn it.
I know it was a joke. But before she goes to sleep, should we get to hear some deep profanities about her wanting to basically bathe in their blood.
Oh yeah, she wants to rip their heads off and bathe in their blood and gorge on it and all this other shit.
Yeah.
Which is just a scary thing to hear in general, but to me, hearing that come out of a child's mouth is way freakier.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if it's just me, but like, hell no. I don't care if a child is saying that to me. I'm out. I'm leaving. I don't.
Unfortunately, they didn't have that option.
Yeah, I know.
But they get her locked up inside of the elevator. Was it? It was some sort of cage in the downstairs.
It was something
that I thought
like
was
that.
an elevator.
It was like either an elevator or some like place to store food or some shit.
Yeah, but and she kind of. This is another thing I didn't really like about the movie. When she wakes up, she kind of like gives her backstory and the exposition she gives and how she knows each of the individuals and how they did her father wrong. It was another case where it felt like they were kind of spouting out all this information that was kind of unorganic.
Yeah. And
some of it was a little hard to grasp onto because it was basically bam, bam, bam going down in a line telling each and every one of them.
Yeah. It did really feel like that, and I do completely agree. But so then does she get out and then start fucking with them, or is that when she like takes over Sammy's body?
So the next thing that happens is Frank stays behind while the others go off, and he's talking to her, and she's kind of like making promises, like, "Hey, if you let me out of here, you'll be spared." She offers that to everybody, but it was just trying to convince him to let him out, and then he kind of like this. He's like leaning towards doing it, but then backs away. He's like, I'm not falling for that again. You stabbed me through the leg, you little shit.
Yeah.
But then, she just doesn't really matter because she busts the door down on Frankie.
Yeah, she does.
The bars did nothing.
They really did. I don't know why they expected that. Like, she literally, she, with no effort at all, shoved a pool cue through somebody's leg. You think that, like, little bars would stop her? Come on,
I mean,
guys.
maybe they had hope that iron might stop her. But,
well, they already knew that the garlic didn't do shit, the cross didn't do shit. Why would they be like, obviously the next logical thing? Iron
it's
bars.
go down the list. Just check it off.
That's fair.
But in this case, it was fine. I like the idea that she was fucking with him. I'm just staying behind these bars to torture you more.
Yeah.
Giving you all this information, give you a false sense of security.
Yeah, I do agree. I do like that she was giving them that false sense of security. I really did enjoy that. But so is it Peter that dies next?
Yeah. So Peter and Sammy go off in one place to start looking for Abigail after she escaped. And then Frank and Joey went off at one location too. But Sam starts falling under the influence and the vampirism from her bite. And I'm not sure how it fully happens, but apparently Abigail can just play a record and start taking control over Sammy. And I thought that was kind of very fitting because Peter, before going down the hallway within the walls or something, he's like, "Oh, you're my friend. I'll make sure you get out of here." And then she gets possessed, and then Sammy gets possessed and starts basically biting and chowing off on Peter. And that's another death that I think that was close to being my favorite because we get to see the visceral actions of Sammy biting in, chewing, and just tearing apart Peter.
Yes, which honestly I think that one was probably my favorite death because it was just so brutal. You know me, I like the brutal deaths in movies.
That's fair. But, so we get to see that happen. Joey and Frank stumble upon Sammy, and she's like turning away from him because her face and smiles become distorted from the vampirism. And she's like, the way she says it is like, "Oh no, she got him.
He's dead." It's like
How sad.
trying to make her sound innocent, but like in a really poor way.
Yeah. And then she chases them to the library, and Sam, out of nowhere, we first get to see, like, the sun, just, like, exploding Abigail's hand when she was attacking Frank after she busted the bars down from the sunlight. So we know that the sunlight hurts them in this case.
But we get Sam running in under the spell of Abigail, runs into the sunlight, and just explodes.
It just runs into the sunlight. Joey grabs a metal plate and reflects the sunlight onto Sam, and it automatically explodes her entire body.
Which was amazing.
Which, I didn't know these things existed until now in filming, but apparently they use blood cannons for all these explosions. And it's basically just a pipe that's attached to a blood bank pump, and it's blue so they can edit it out, and they just start shooting the fucking blood through this.
That is amazing, and I love that so much. I did not know that exists, Robert. I want one.
I don't know where you can find one. We could probably make one.
Let's make one for the next short that we make.
But either way, that's how they got the blood explosions happening for those scenes. And after that, after Sammy explodes, they kind of start trying to still look for a way out. And they stumble upon who they thought had left, Lambert.
Who's just chilling in the walls.
He's chilling in the walls, watching the TV, making sure all this goes to plan. He's also played by, and I'm going to mispronounce his name because we didn't go over it.
I didn't even want to try to say his name.
Giancarlo
Esposito.
I believe we apologize. I love this man as an actor. He played Gus in Breaking Bad.
This man, you could name what he's been in for hours. This man has over 199 credits on frickin' IMDb.
He's just the better version of Nicolas Cage, and when he's appearing in things.
Literally.
Not by much, though. I love you, Nick Cage.
Yeah, Nick Cage, you're great. But we love the man that we can't say his name. He's so good.
But
we
get to see him watching
him, like, just sitting in this like back alley room in the walls, watching everybody, and then we find out that he is also a vampire.
Yeah, and he's basically the babysitter for Abigail.
Yep.
The babysitter and butler for Abigail, making sure she doesn't fuck things up. But basically, he kind of offers Frank.
Yeah, Gus. He offers himself from another universe.
You know what? I want to see that.
Oh my god. But he offers Frank to become a vampire.
And like the full thing too, not like the servant, like how Sammy was.
Yeah, and at first it looks like Frank might deny it, might say no, but then, as corrupt cops do, he agrees and knocks Joey out or over.
He basically pushes Joey away and starts the process of turning Frank into a vampire, which in this case is like biting and drinking the blood, but then the vampire would cut themselves in some way, shape, or form and cause the person they just bit to drink their blood.
Yep. But then,
which led to another scene that I really liked. After he drinks the blood, they basically attached these prosthetics to him and a tube that was kind of like pointed out his mouth, and it started spewing blood out.
Yep.
He was basically projectile vomiting all this blood. I guess in this case, a better way than last week with the psychic from A Late Night with the Devil.
That is true. It was much better of a vomiting up blood, whereas in Late Night with the Devil, he kind of just like projectile vomited black ooze.
Yeah. In this case, it's the one that I guess Frank wanted. Yeah. But Frank completes the vampirism form, and the agreement terms was he would help Lambert take down Abigail and Abigail's father. But Frank, that bastard asshole dick fuck, decided like I can do it by myself,
and then kills Lambert.
Yes, and it's a stake from the back all the way through the heart, and you see it from the other end of the chest. And we get another case where they did the blood cannons, and fucking after the stab, poof,
exploded. It was a beautiful death.
And at this point, Frank's covered in blood. Joey's also covered in blood.
Yeah, they're both drenched. But so then
for a moment when we watched that at first, I thought Frank was gonna turn himself around, like, all right, I'm a vampire now. I can now go fight Abigail. But then he's just like, I'm the bad guy now.
Yeah, literally. Like the first time when we watched it, I was like, oh shit, he did it so that he could fight her. Like, that's dope. And then he's like, nah, I'm the one in charge, bitch. Honestly, it fit his character. I don't know why I hoped that he wasn't gonna be bad. I should have known it. I should have seen it coming.
Honestly, I think it's funnier this way, that we kind of are like, oh, he got rid of Lambert, and then he's gonna do the right thing, and it's like, no, he's still an ass. He's gonna try to kill Joey.
Yep.
So that leads us. The chase leads us back to the library.
Back to the library, where a big fight goes on between Abigail and Frank, and then we finally get introduced to Father, That is all he is actually called when we see him, played by Matthew Good. This is Abigail's father.
Yes. Well, before we get to that, before even he shows up, we get to see the team up between Joey and Abigail. And Abigail is quite weak because of when she tried fighting Frank by herself.
Yep. Which was,
So,
honestly, the team up between Abigail and Joey was kind of cool.
it was cool. We got to see them double teaming Frank, and Frank wasn't ready for it. He wasn't ready for the smoke.
Whoa, Robert. Be careful about what you say. That's kind of inappropriate, man.
He wasn't ready.
No, but the fight between Abigail and Joey versus Frank was great. It was such good fight choreography. I loved it.
It was going their way for a bit, but then he turns it around, gets Abigail off, and he bites Joey. And he kind of thinks that he now has control over her, but Joey just plays into it. She turns around and stabs Frank through the heart with a stake, causing the biggest explosion we've seen from a vampire so far. That thing covered the entire fucking first floor of the library.
Yes, and I wasn't expecting him to explode that much. Like,
all
seeing Lambert explode, I was like, oh shit. And then when Joey stabbed Frank, I was like, oh, we're going to get another explosion, but it's not going to be as big. And then it was like 10 times bigger than when they killed Lambert. I was like, damn.
Yeah, it was huge. That's probably my favorite kill just because of how big the explosion was.
Honestly, that's fair. It was a great kill. But then then we get the father that comes in.
Yes.
And essentially, Abigail is like, don't kill her. She helped me. She saved me. Blah, blah, blah. And like, doesn't he like offer her something?
I believe so.
Like, it's like a job being the new like caretaker for Abigail, but she declines it.
I think she does, because I think it was like, oh, maybe she doesn't need a caretaker. Maybe you just got to be a father. But she said it in the nicest way possible, because this man essentially is Dracula of this world.
Yeah, and she's like, I don't want to die right now. I just fought to be alive. I don't want to piss off the man that could literally kill me with the snap of his fingers.
Yes. And yeah, essentially, so Abigail helps save Joey from her father, which I felt like was kind of quite the turn that she took from I'm gonna bathe in your blood and eat you to she ain't that bad.
You. Yeah, it was a huge turn. But I mean, what can you say? She's a young child. They're all very emotionally unstable and jump between things.
Essentially.
So the dying question, Robert. Do you think you have a chance against Abigail?
Hell fucking no, okay? If I was prepared to try to stab her through the heart, but I saw where that got Frank, Peter, and Sammy at first.
That's true. That's true.
It took a vampire and a human to defeat one like very new vampire.
And she's thousands of years old.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that she was weakened and she needed help. I'm just saying I ain't surviving.
You're cooked.
Yes. I think I would hope I would get. I don't know. The deaths any of these people had were peaceful. I guess Rickles was the closest. He was probably more shocked than felt pain.
You know what? That's fair. Beyond Rickles, I feel like the only other person that kind of had a peaceful death, and I feel like it's really weird saying that she had a peaceful death was Sammy.
Yeah, but
and that's just because she she got bit and then she was used to kill Peter, but then she got hit by sunlight and just died instantly.
Yeah, but you gotta hope that you're looked upon the vampire as like, I can turn this one into a vampire.
That's true. I agree. ain't no fucking way I'm living through this. I am
Yeah,
dead.
no. I don't got a child that I can garner sympathy from the vampire for, which helped Joey out. Which I think we forgot to mention. Joey's big motivation is she's trying to get money to start a new life with her kid.
Yes. That is definitely something that we left out. But
She's the only character with deep motivations. Because
yeah,
Sammy's entire
everybody
thing
else
is
is just like, I want money.
Sammy's thing is that she's rebellious. Peter wants money. Dean wanted money.
Frank wanted money and power.
Frank wanted control and money.
Yeah. And then Rickles, we don't really know exactly what he wanted, but probably money.
He was the first one willing to give up the money.
Yeah, that is true. So I think that pretty much wraps up this week's episode.
Yeah. So, if you get approached by a man who's asking you to do a job and he gives you very little details, it's probably best to assume you should not take that job.
That is completely factually correct. Also, if he says anything about kidnapping a child, turn him into the police, because that's illegal.
Everything these characters did in the opening scene was illegal.
That is very true.
They committed trespassing, breaking and entering,
abduction,
speeding. Endangerment of a child's well-being.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Everything that they did in this was definitely illegal.
Very illegal.
Excuse me.
Let that be a lesson to you, listeners. Illegal acts might get you caught up in a caged room with a vampire child.
Remember, listeners, crime doesn't pay. Well, that is all for this week's episode. Thank you guys all for listening. You can find us wherever you're listening to us, either on YouTube or on Spotify at Tombstone Productions, as well as on Instagram at Tombstone Productions. You can come and follow us there. We're going to be posting some pictures and a couple other things possibly coming your way that we have been discussing and talking about for little fun little things. Come back next week when we dive into something festive. You got Travis signing off for the week, and as always, Robert.
Goodbye, everybody. Have a safe trip outside the graveyard.
Don't trip on your way out.